let's go back to that photo that you have on your desktop that you were going to explain to me, but we decided not to talk about it before the podcast because it's so incredible. That you said all of this incredible change that we're looking at, the geological structure, all that took place within just a week.
Yeah. Let's go to this. We'll come. I've got that. We'll come to that. This is a satellite photograph taken from about 500 miles up. And what you see here, this is southeastern Washington. And what you're looking at here is part of what's called the Columbia Basalt Plateau. This is part of the terrain that we crossed when I was with Graham. What you see here is that you have an area of, if you look here, you can see differentiate between the pixels and the actual squares. That, like you see this red area down here is area that's actually being farmed, and it's because this is an infrared photograph, and so what happens is that the areas that are being cultivated will show up warmer than the surrounding areas. This whole plateau is covered in this stuff called loess, Loess, and it's a type of very fertile soil that has a rather mysterious and controversial origin. We won't get into that right now, but in some places this loess layer is hundreds of feet thick over a dark basalt bedrock that is the result of these massive outflows of basaltic lava that came out, that extruded between about 6 million and 16 million years ago, right? The hot spot that was the ultimate origin of this basalt is now where Yellowstone is, which, so you can make that connection here. The Yellowstone supervolcano, yeah. But what you have here is that you have the lighter areas is where this loess topsoil still exists, and the darker areas is where the underlying dark basalt is showing through because the loess was washed away. So what this is your typical, the geological term is anastomosing, and basically that means a branching flow pattern of the water. And you can see that very clearly here, that the water came off of this river, which is the Columbia River up here, and flowed over the landscape and washed away the basalt and left these gigantic channels in its wake. And there's more over here to the east, there's more over here to the west. And if we look at actually this, let me go to a different program here. I think that'll actually have some, that actually I think has the picture in it that you were seeing. Now, what we're looking at here is what's been called the Missoula Flood, right? Named after the town of Missoula, Montana. Missoula is in a basin that was part of this hypothesized giant lake that presumably caused this flood, right? And again, there was an ice dam. That there was this ice dam. The ice dam broke, and as soon as this thing comes up, I will be able to show you some slide. Here we go. Let's see. Here we go. It should be coming up right here. While that's coming up, we'll look at this slide right here, because this will kind of give you a picture of the Earth as it was during the height of the Ice Age.
So, wow, that's pretty deep. The sheets of ice go pretty far down. That's amazing. Canada didn't exist.
Canada didn't exist.
Wow.
Yeah.
Poor Canadians.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And, the ice, part of it is, a lot of in the Midwest now, the farming belt of America is basically, growing out of the fertile soil that the ice scraped off of Canada and dumped, down in Minnesota and Iowa and Wisconsin and so on. So, someday they may want that back, but we're not going to let them have it.
It's fascinating when you look at that there was this big ice cap, but then the areas around it, no ice. And why was that?
Well, that's one of the mysteries. Again, like over here in Siberia, you can see over here, this is where all the woolly mammoths were, giant herds of woolly mammoths. And it appears like it may have been warmer than now during the Ice Age, which is very odd.
There's some ice up there? Is that what we're seeing?
Yeah, there's some ice up there. sporadic glaciers, but nothing like what we see in northwestern Europe over here. This was called the Fennoscandian ice sheet. And the ice sheet over North America actually consisted of two ice sheets, the Laurentide, which was centered over Hudson Bay, and the Cordilleran, which was centered over the Canadian Rockies. And in this particular slide, you can see here, this was the Cordilleran over here, over the Canadian Rockies, and this was the Laurentide was much bigger, see? And then there was an area between the two, right here, which has been theorized as, at one point, having been a corridor called the Ice-Free Corridor, and migrants from Paleo-Indian migrants from Siberia would have come across Alaska and down through this corridor here to the lower United States, and ultimately down here to South America. And it was that group, these groups of bands of Paleo-Indian hunters that, according to the overkill or blitzkrieg hypothesis, wiped out the mega mammals as they passed by.